Patrick Starchild joins the podcast today to talk about his struggles with abuse, addiction, and bullying. His story will be very familiar to those who grew up different in a small town and finally found their voice and space in this world. Or maybe you're hoping to. From a stay in a psychiatric hospital to one of the most sought-after drag performers of the Northwest, I really hope you enjoy this journey of triumph and authenticity. Welcome to the Suicide Prevention Lady podcast, where we make intervention easy. I'm your host, Dr. Ricky Turner, and I am a suicide intervention expert. Please take note, I am the thinky kind of doctor and not a medical professional, so please do not take anything in this podcast as medical advice. Now, bring in Patrick. All right. Welcome to the podcast. I have Patrick right here I don't really know what you identify as where you're from, but coming to us from the Northwest, correct?
Yeah, Pacific Northwest. I'm up in Washington, outside of Seattle.
Outside of Seattle. Okay. Now, Patrick and I knew each other. We started knowing each other sometime in elementary school. When did you move to the school?
Middle school.
Middle school. Okay. So in the middle school era, and y'all
probably didn't. This is a fun thing. You probably didn't know me because they put me in special ed for 5th grade.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. I was ahead 2 grades with my curriculum. So I was helping people. I won't name names who struggled in 5th grade with basic reading and math, but I helped people in special ed, and some kids coming out of Mr. Rogers' class and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Class, yeah. And then I joined everybody in the 6th grade.
Okay, yeah, you were correct. I did not know that. So you were with me in that really old building for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I walked through that and I was like, oh, uncore, all these core memories unlocked, forgotten about.
I just remember paying somebody $20, or it wasn't $20, $10 to break my glasses because I had giant Coke bottle glasses.
Amazing.
We are still friends to this day.
I love that. Okay, when we're off recording, I want to know who that was too. So anyway, we were classmates in middle school, junior high. It was a small town, so it was more like junior high school kind of blended together. And then I moved away, but somehow you and I have stayed in touch over the years, kind of sparingly. Like we connect, and then a few years will go by, and then we connect again. And anyway, I always remember Patrick as being this sweetie pie band nerd who was just amazing. And then, like I said, we kept running into each other and stuff. And so he was so gracious to come on the podcast and share about his journey. So we've given a little bit of an introduction, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy to share a little bit of my light, especially because my life has been really, really fun since we've seen each other. I think that after you left and you went to another school, the next time you saw me I think I was a judge at dance team auditions at your high school.
You were, yeah, for my dance team. It was wild. I walked in and I was like, what is happening right now?
You're like, is this real life?
Yeah.
It was very bizarre because I wasn't even in dance at that time, but I was in color guard. I think I was the first person at our high school to ever do it, and I think that I was a little bit of a trendsetter in terms of color guard back in. It's pretty close to the 1900s, which is wild to say.
It was.
Now it's kind of like, everybody gets to do everything if they feel like it and if there's space, which is wonderful. But back in the day, that wasn't the case.
Right.
I went to high school, undergrad, and graduate school all in Arkansas, and then moved on to New York City for a hot minute. And then after the pandemic, I spent some time soul searching and connecting with some family. And then decided to move here to Kitsap County, which is literally a 40-minute ferry ride right over to downtown Seattle. So awesome. That's where I am now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Now, I know you've been pretty open about having lived experience with suicide. And so if you could kind of talk about when did you first start having suicidal ideation and what was going on at that time?
Right. I definitely feel like for a lot of youth, whenever we're experiencing emotions, it's sometimes hard to quantify if we don't necessarily have the right resources, whether it's at home or a good resource counselor at the high school, or in my case, a nice faith-based institution to be able to kind of give things up to. So that definitely was something that occurred to me really early on. The first time where I actually acted on any sort of ideation was after a high school football game. The first time I ever performed, whenever the home team was screaming so many obscenities and throwing things on the field that I just walked off the field mid-performance, because I couldn't really handle the rest of the team being, taking attention away from them for something of me doing. Like, I felt really selfish about it. Even though I was like having the best time of my life. So excited to wear sparkles and dance around with LeMay,
Yeah.
Crazy,
I'm so sorry that happened. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. But like, it's so weird because hindsight is a wonderful thing. You get to see things really clear after you see where the tornado blazed through things. But at the time being, our context clues, our ability to understand or even connecting, because we're all just trying to figure it out. The crazy thing is that I won't say what happened or what I was doing, but I basically ran away from the football game and started walking towards Highway 59, and you can kind of put some things together there.
Sure.
And that was like the first time. And I remember I had to have a conversation with my mom about it. And my mom was kind of struggling with me in color guard, because I did it without her knowing. And then I was at church, and I was one of those people that definitely drank the Kool-Aid and kind of didn't necessarily present the faith the way that I respect it now. But at the time that it was delivered to me, I was definitely a Bible thumper. So I was kind of really mean to my mom, because my mom was, she participated in recreational activities like poker and alcohol and the marijuanas, and that was just not a thing, in where we're from in the South. It's just you just don't do those things. So I had all types of really struggling ideas of things. Plus, I didn't really know anybody like me either. So I felt like I was a little bit alone. And whenever I found that safe space where I thought I could just be myself and kind of, have a grand time performing for people, entertaining people, and then having my hometown kind of treat me that way, kind of put me in a weird space.
So it was the home team doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not shocked. And for context, for anyone listening, for context, this is a small town in Northwest Arkansas that if you think, because we're talking about essentially 30 years ago, almost 25. Yeah. And if you think we have advanced as a society since then, 25 years worth, they were already probably 20 years behind that. Right. So things hit that town as far as progress is concerned a little later. So that's why I say I'm not surprised, and I'm also heartbroken, but it's what happens.
I feel like I'm very lucky to be able to have the confidence that I have post that, and a lot of that comes to doing the work. Yeah.
Okay. So now at this point, how did that go? After that incident, you talked to your mom and everything, and then, you go back to school. How was that for you, going and facing what I assume is some of the people who were being ugly?
Yeah, I mean, and I've always been I didn't really take the back seat when it came to bullying. I was pretty lashy. I would snap back. I spent probably majority of my time in detention or some sort of things, because I just didn't allow people to talk to me that way. Yeah. My mom raised me to treat people how you like to be treated. And I grew up with a single mom, so my mom is always just giving me the benefit of the doubt, and I wasn't a bad kid or anything. I mean, I went to church by myself, for goodness sake. So I wasn't doing anything crazy. Plus, I mean, there was nothing to do out there. There was barely a stop sign on that road. So had to drive 45 miles to go, terrorize the Walmart parking lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to drive or afford a car. So, right. But no, I went back in there and was just my whole entire perception based off of a conversation that triggered the whole thing. Someone that I had put a lot of faith into and guidance that had been really supportive of me wasn't too happy that I was in this predominantly female centered dance situation. And legit, she said, like, I don't have anything to say to you. You did this to yourself. And just like wouldn't even look me in the eye. And that's whenever it snapped for me. And that was the moment whenever I realized, I'm like, I've been putting all this energy into this space where I saw growth and excitement and love and happiness and success and light. And then in that moment, everything changed. It was kind of like the glasses were taken off and I saw everybody for who it was. And I was like, there's the only person that's going to take care of me is me. And having that feeling at around 15 to 16 was really kind of rough because I didn't have the best childhood, and we don't need to get into that. But like there was a lot of pain and abuse that got me and my mom to move from California to Arkansas to be with my mom's parents. So like there's a lot of pain and suffering that was there to get me to get us to there. And it was that point, like I think it was my sophomore junior year, that I was just like, I'm doing everything I possibly can to get the hell out of this town and to literally be this. Like, I will be remembered, I will be feared, I will be loved, I will be all the things, but I will not be here. And I haven't been.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I also have I have a lot of great memories. I don't want to discount that at all. And a lot of great people that are there. And a lot of hurt. There was a lot of hurt. You said something there. They blamed you. They said you did this to yourself. That hit me pretty hard. That is an example for the audience of shit you don't say to people.
Right.
When they're being bullied, you do not, but that it's giving, what was she wearing?
Oh,
that is
definitely.
It is giving, what was she wearing? Nope. No. We're responsible for our own actions and how we treat people. And it's so easy just not to say anything at all. If somebody is out there doing whatever makes them happy, like, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, why are we involving ourselves in this? And no, absolutely not.
Hey, I would have appreciated a nice little scripture and some gaslighting like a normal person, but no, I didn't even get that. It was just kind of like.
So this was a religious leader that said this. That was just like, you did this to yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and that was like from one church, because I went to many churches. I don't know if you know, like I dated a couple of ministers' daughters. I played a really good game in high school. I mean, I was just trying to assimilate. Like, I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. Which is funny because like now I'm single, unmarried, and like not interested in cohabitating or being physical with people. Like, I'm sapiosexual. Like, if I can't have a conversation with you, I don't want to be around you, period. So it's like I went this like really weird space to get to where, like, you know, when we're younger, we're always trying to like find things to fit in because it's so much easier to assimilate. And especially if we don't have a clear path of what that looks like, we're just going to kind of like play safe over here and then do things in the dark safely and without guidance. And that could be very, very terrible for us because you know, we don't, it's easier to walk through the light over here, but at night we can go for this. And this is before the internet too. So it's like, we didn't have the ability to have a podcast or to be able to look up something, you know, Lord knows, like we didn't even, like, we had problems getting, keeping the Harry Potter books in our library.
Yeah.
Do you remember that when we made CNN?
Yes. And so what's so funny about that, my husband literally brought that up because in the county that I'm in, the library director was fired for not banning books. She would not bend to what everybody wanted, and they finally fired her. And now she's suing them back, and she's citing that court case that the students won against Cedarville schools. So
I just graduated at that point. I mean, and I remember my senior year, we went up against the school board because I was told to recolor my hair because my hair color, it was Slim Shady time, so my hair was platinum blonde. So they were like, you can't have a natural picture. So we had to pay to get my senior pictures redone. And then we weren't allowed to have any non-natural hair color. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But like, it all came down from a weird form of control. But I remember going to the school board with, I forget who our student council president was. Of course, it was probably Amanda. I love her. But we went and presented to the school board because they made everybody take out their piercings. You can only have one piercing. And I'm like, this is public school.
Yeah.
Like like, why are you bothered? You're not bothered. There's nothing to say. Like, well, they're playing with it and things. And I'm like, there are kids like literally like fornicating in the bathroom and like, you know,
Right.
drinking and smoking. But I'm like, let's make a big deal about someone having an earring.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
1900s.
Yeah, the 1900s. Oh, these Gen Alpha people listening to us right now, they're like, they're so old. Okay, so was that your only experience with suicide in high school, or did this continue?
No, I'm like, once I got away, I got a music performance scholarship. I basically had a full ride to play clarinet at Arkansas Tech, and then it was too small for me. It felt like high school. Everybody knew my business, and I just got tired of being in that small crowd, and so I transferred up to the University of Arkansas and ended up getting scholarship there for music performance. I started to find like-minded people, and just kind of starting the healing process, but then. Going to a big SEC school, there's this lovely thing called drinking. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or participated.
Yeah, most college students have never heard of this. So, but yeah,
I mean,
it happens.
You know, it's just a great way to decompress, and it's your first bout of freedom. And college was so important to my development, and mostly positive. But I picked up a few coping mechanisms that probably weren't the best. But I also didn't have really close people. The more that I excelled in life, the more I ostracized myself from my family. Like on both my mom's side and my dad's side, like I was going on a path that nobody else really had ever been around. I was one of the first people from my family to go to college, let alone finish and then go to grad school. So like I was speaking a different language from the moment I like came out the womb. I've always just been a very differently wired person, and I'm just very intellectually hungry person, and just really artistically driven. So like I hate to toot my own horn, but like there's probably not a thing that I don't know how to do very confidently and have probably been paid for to recognize, like in the art world, like professionally, and it's just because I just like to learn. But like it really caused me to have to make my own path, and we all know that like whenever you have to blaze your own path, it gets kind of lonely. And I picked up some pretty crazy habits. You know, mine mainly was just drinking, and it wasn't anything out of control. But it got to a point where I eventually got fired after getting my graduate degree. And that kind of put me in a tailspin because I felt like I'd already arrived in Little Rock. I worked for a really great nonprofit doing really important work that mattered. I was board chair of Earth Day Foundation, and then was also like super involved in things at the Clinton Library. I was doing fundraising things for political. I'm just doing so many things, plus teaching at high schools, doing choreography for marching band. And was just like, it seemed all great. I owned my house at the time with a partner, and then just everything was just like, just shattered. And I was like, all right, well, this isn't meant to be. I've been playing house. I've been making the best out of the situation at hand, which I've always done. And so I moved across the country to New York City.
Okay.
And was there for 12 years. And then things got a little bit crazy right around age 32, 33. And that was the first and last time I was ever institutionalized. I checked myself into a facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you checked yourself in.
Mm-hmm.
What happened prior to that to lead you to know, like, how did you know something was wrong that you needed to address it?
Yeah. One of the big things that I would say anyone that's listening to this, whether you are a person that's going through a mental crisis or anything, it just living life, and you just need to know, we need to learn how to set boundaries very, very, very clearly and understand the power of no. But in my opinion, being able to say no is an act of self-care, and it's love, and it's also a way to build trust with other people too. I was not very good at saying no. I was partying hard on the weekends, doing all these things, but still meeting all my requirements. I kept on getting promoted pretty quickly. I was at this new company, and they started this new division called the Emerging Brands Division, and I was a sales strategist, and they ended up putting me into an account management role, which I'd never done before, but it was basically client services, taking care of the day in, day out. I had 42 accounts dropped on me. And then our head of growth, so a C-level person making, lots more money than me, got let go, and they gave me all of their responsibility, and I was doubling up as the sales lead for that department nationally. So I was trying to do all the renewals, all the expansions, the delivery from the reporting, I was traveling. I was at Coca-Cola. I was at NASCAR in Charlottesville, and was traveling all over the place. And I was like making it all work, but I was just like on autopilot, and just like I didn't feel like myself. And leading up to it, was getting close to my birthday, and I hadn't connected with friends very much because like I was doing some crazy things on the weekend. I started experimenting with party drugs, like, you know, going out to raves and just having a good time. New York is a plethora of all types of fun and insanity. And I was using things responsibly, but like the frequency just came from then. We're just trying to meet like the dopamine fix and numbing things and just trying to get through to the next thing. And I just didn't really have a space where I could debrief about anything. So it was just like starting to burn out and churn. And it was around my birthday where I realized that everybody else was happy. And I was like, if I looked at myself, like on the outside, what I was posting, how I was talking, how I was carrying myself, all looked like Patrick is having the best time of his life. If people from Arkansas were watching me on social media, they were like, I'm so proud of them. And, you know, but it wasn't really, it was real, but it wasn't, because I was producing every aspect of what people wanted to see. It was a part of my experience, and it wasn't done in vain, but it wasn't a true reflection of like how I was operating from the inside. And I was as after my second or third birthday brunch that we had that weekend, I was out the whole weekend. I had a functional freeze moment where I had a panic attack and was just in the girls' bathroom. I don't even know how I got there. I was at some club. And I remember I was wearing like this like leather shirt and heels, and was just like had glitter, and I was just in the corner of the bathroom just crying, and I couldn't articulate. And my friends found me and they were like, "Are you good?" And I just couldn't talk. I remember my friend Scotty had just bought a condo in Williamsburg, and it was like a 2-point-something million townhome, and I was like, I have 5 roommates and I'm working harder than anybody I know, and I'm not moving forward. And it just was like I had made plans in my head on how I was going to do it. And the big red flag was on the day of my birthday, my mom, my grandma, and my sister all FaceTimed me, and they'd saved up money. My family's pretty modest. They'd all saved up money for me to have tickets to go see Hamilton on Broadway, and literally dead behind the eyes. I just remember them talking about it. I'm like, that's really sweet. Thank you. And that is not like me at all.
No.
And that was like this is like my family meeting me halfway, thinking of something outside the box that I could easily afforded myself, but they knew that I wouldn't treat myself to something like that. Yeah. And they paid for it, and they got the dates and all that good stuff. And I just couldn't process, but then also was just like not in the space. Like functional freeze is something that I've been hearing a lot about, and it's like it kind of makes some sense. I'm just like I'm checking the boxes, the files are getting sent, the bills are being paid, but I'm like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
And I put myself in a 72-hour hold, and
because you were afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew that I was like, I was gonna do it, and I was like, you know what, like, this is my last chance to say, like, here you go. Like, I need to put the ball in someone's. I need some sort of level of transparency and accountability, because I wasn't telling anybody about it. So my best friend at a time, from Shiloh Christian over in Springdale, so he lived in Fayetteville, or he lived in New York with me, down the street, and we got me the help that I needed for that time, and that started my lovely journey of like, okay, there's got to be some work. We can't run from this anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a lot to unpack.
Right.
It is, but it's so poignant, because I hear all the time, and I hear just it's some of the most uneducated things that people say when it comes to people struggling with suicide ideation. And when I say that, I don't mean it as in you're a bad person or anything for thinking this. It's just, if you have never yourself struggled with it, we try our best to make sense of a world that we don't understand. And so we draw our own conclusions. And so, you know, I hear people say if they really wanted to do it, they would just do it. They wouldn't tell anybody. Or they say things like in your instance, oh, I would have never thought anything. There's no way he doesn't act like a depressed person. He doesn't act like, because you are carefully curating, and you said it, you are carefully curating the story so that no one ever suspects you. And that is the thing, is like when I talk about the different things that you can do if you're worried about somebody. It's not just if you're worried about somebody. These are things that we should be doing in general with people.
Right.
Checking on our friends that have it all together, because checking on the ones that are always there for us, are always there for other people, stuff like that, because you just said it. You are carefully curating a message to people, and then they're like, there were no warning signs, and it's like, that was by design.
That was literally like, if someone seems to be subhuman, like, or like beyond anything, like, there's probably something wrong there. There's probably a little tinge of the OCDs in there, something that's making them like do those things, because it is a superpower. But it's also like, the more and more I've talked to people out here, I'm a nightlife performer too now, and that's something that I started here recently because of all the anti-LGBTQIA trans stuff. I'm like, this is dumb, guys. Like, legit, this is stupid. So I felt like having this this visibility in this county, especially being new, it's very purple, but where I live currently and where I work is very, very red, very, very older, very affluent, very, very wealthy. And then my nice flamboyant smoky eye self is running around here like, making crap happen. But like, I jumped in there because I was like, I needed to be that representation of that adult that I never had. Like, I don't have kids. I'm single. I'm like, I just felt that calling for myself. Like, the universe is saying like, okay, it's time to put on some fancy heels and get into some people's faces. And my drag career over the past year and a half has been absolutely insane because it's filling that need. But the conversations that I have with people is just like, the more and more I see little bits of myself and in every single one of them. And so like, I'll find little seeds where I'm like, they're going through this, I'm going to give them this little piece and be like, hey, you should consider doing this sometime. I'll talk to you in a week or so. And then I go in and check on them. The number of people that I've gotten to like go and create a relationship with a therapist and to figure out their healthcare, just because I have that ability to be on stage with a microphone controlling the evening. And then I've gotten sober since over the past year in some change. So it's like, I don't do anything. So my visibility is really, really kind of key. I mean, like, it's being a queer person or being anything outside of normal. It's very lonely because it's like, you have the strength to get through it. And everyone says like, you just make it to tomorrow, like just one day at a time, these things. And we're really good at believing that. And like, systematically, like, of course, like, yeah, anybody can do that. But sometimes it just gets so hard to lift because you're not being seen. You're not being heard. You may not even know how to talk about it. You may not even like, it's baffling to me. Like, I could spend a whole entire like 2 hours on a soapbox talking about some of the things I've seen with people from like literally 18 to like 65, like of the things that I've heard, the amount of like confessions I get. There's something about being all done up as a character where people are like, this is magic. And then they forget that you're a human behind it. And it's like, no, I'm going home with all your trauma. Like, I'm so tired as a human now because it's like, they're not dealing with it. They need to tell someone. I'm so honored that they told me.
Right.
I'm not going to remember it because they're either too stoned or too drunk to remember. But then I'm the person that's like checking in on them every couple of days. And it's like, I never had that, like my family just didn't, that's not how we were raised. That's not how they were raised. They were supportive. Like, my needs were met, but like, we're not chalky people. Feelings are not something we deal with. Right. So I'm like, okay, I have to deal with them because I make very bad decisions that may devastate people in the future if I don't deal with them.
Yeah. I can relate to that so much, especially like the upbringing. It was the 1900s. But it also like, I mean, I don't know how much of this, I mean, I know it was the talk of the town for a while, but I went through 2 different court cases, putting 2 different men 2 years apart that weren't related in jail for being child predators. And each time we were in the court system, they offered our parents, would you like to we can provide some counseling, blah, blah, to help them process it. They're not crazy. They don't need counseling. Yes, the fuck I did.
Yeah.
Absolutely we did. And that it was just the time. Like they did the
Right.
best they could at the time. They didn't think that that was bad, to not give that resource for us. But oh my gosh, like it was well into my 20s. I don't even think I really got serious about therapy until I was in my 30s.
Right.
And
Same.
like
30.
that healing that happens when you actually get into therapy and you do the hard work. And I mean, I did all kinds of different types of therapy to get past that. Yeah, it's wild that how that can really affect you. And I love that you're providing that for other people. I also want you to care for yourself, because I understand taking on other people's trauma. It feels like, like what's the scale? I can't remember the name of the scale right now, but you do the test. And if you score like more than 5, it's like, okay, you've had some serious trauma and you need to deal with that. Yeah. I think mine is like 8 out of 10. Like 8 out of 10.
Mine's something about like that too.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, it going through the things is fine, but then you finding that support system as well. And so anyway, I say all that to say, as an empathetic person, which I think is kind of brought out of a lot of trauma, and the same thing is like, I want to be what I didn't have for other people. And that can get really heavy. That's a heavy load.
Really can. But I mean, it also like, I am not a professional, do not quote me. But I think that there's, when you get to that spot where your energy is getting to a nice level space where it's like you're not necessarily at peace, you still have to do some lifting, but like that you're on the other side of it, like you're okay. I think that there's like a light inside you that just makes you a little bit more skilled whenever skilled to be able to like navigate through those channels. Like I've gotten so much better about advocating for my own like my own piece, that it's like I don't feel like it's work. But like we kind of talked to this before we started recording, but like I did have an overdose about almost six years ago. And I mean, I don't need to get like super into how it happened. But like I was engaged at the time, and I was doing really bad things to my health, and it was right before the pandemic hit. And I was lost. Like I had that recovery from that hospitalization, but like it just was on the other side of the planet. Like I was New York, my family's over here on the West Coast. My sister was out in Hawaii. I did have a great relationship with my dad still, and so like I was still like trying to find my own peace. And I usually was strong enough to deal with it, but I had not done the work. And I remember my sister had to come get me, and I took some time to kind of heal. I left New York for about 6 months right before.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
She had to come from Hawaii?
She was living in Oregon at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or like Washington, yeah. But she and she's not across the country. Like, oh yeah. And like wow. I was in the hospital like unresponsive for like 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like and like that's where it was kind of like the wake up. It was just like I've always had the ideations. I'm like, it'd just be so much easier. Like I'm tired. Like if it just wasn't here, and then just not thinking about anybody else, because I couldn't possibly think about anybody else. I'm doing so many other things for other people, anyways. Like who's gonna take care of me? But like yeah, I ended up coming out of that situation where like it didn't seem real. Like I was so close, just lights out, so close. But like everything seemed different, and that was about the time where I had to make some big swings to change, just like moving to New York to get away from all that trying to fit in, where there was like this fakeness and this insecurity from other people dictating how I lived my life, then to New York, where it was like had everything and I was doing everything correctly, but it just wasn't feeling correct, to being like, okay, now is the universe saying, okay, hard pivot. And I ended up going to Seattle to kind of to where I'm at now. For about 6 months, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like scared because I was still engaged to this person, and they were also my abuser, and I was still not in the best headspace. Wasn't having therapy, was trying to like reestablish healthcare, trying to get a job, and then like it was just all fogginess. And then I just panicked that he was gonna like die in our apartment in the Bronx, and I'm like, I can't, because it was happening over in Seattle, it was happening in New York, and people weren't really talking about it like they should have. Trump was the president at the time. This is well before he was talking about injecting bleach. I mean, it was a wild time, you know. So like, I ended up against my family's wishes. I was like, I'm going back, and then my family was just like, okay, well, you're on your own with this, and that kind of put me in a weird space because I was like, you all haven't really like been a part of the situation or accepted all the shit that got me to this place. But okay, if that's the case, it's fine. So I got there and was like, okay, this wasn't the right decision. I'm not going to give my family the benefit of the satisfaction of being like, okay, you're right. But what I am going to do is I'm going to spend this lockdown and work every system and thing that I can to plan to get out, to save some money. And then, so it's one of those things where like, I think it's like, I was definitely in an abusive situation where I was taken advantage of, and the pandemic allowed me some time to be like, okay, what do we want out of this? And luckily I had a really good friend who's no longer with us. She's been one of my best friends since college. She passed away of breast cancer about 3 years ago. And she was like my everything. She was the one that got me off of some of the harder drugs and to kind of like snap out of it because they couldn't live this double life. Because she was the constant reminder of who I am, who I've always been, and who I deserve to be and what I deserve to have in this world. And you know, that's what eventually got me all the way out here. And it started my full sobriety thing. And it's wild when you're 40 years old and you're experiencing emotions for the first time without any sort of like fogginess, by not having like any sort of drugs in your system. And then and alcohol is so dangerous. Like, I don't want to be a preachy person, but like alcohol can be really, really dangerous. Yeah, that's a whole lot of word vomit, but there's some nuggets in there.
No, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And you hit on two things that I want to really call out. The first one was talking of the way you were thinking, and it was insight into how some people think, because a lot of people think about suicide and they think of I'm actively they think it's depression, and it's such a depression that it's despair and they want out, and they might think it's selfish or whatever, but they just go and they do the thing, right? But what people miss is the passive suicidality, and you touched on it, where it's just like a daily thought of, well, if that car would hit me, it would probably it'd just be so much better. Like, and you kind of put yourself in more and more dangerous situations because it's like, it's then I'm not the one doing it. It's just the way it works. And I just happen to be getting inching closer and closer to these dangerous things so that, at least, that might take me out. And then,
I mean, that subway was going that way really fast anyway. Sorry, I fell. No big deal. It's a wet spot. Like, that's definitely a real thing. It's just like I say, like, that's one of the call outs. Like, whenever you get complacent like that, if anyone that's listening to this is like, you know what, that might hit a little bit. Like, if there's a lot of humor and lightness whenever you're just like, like, that might be a sign that like, okay, let's do a nice little chat, like check.
Yeah.
Am I eating properly? Am I medicated properly? Am I getting enough rest? Like literally like physiology things. Like, am I okay physically right now? Because like, if you're, just be honest, Ricky, like, I feel like with the way that the world is right now, I think we all kind of get this place where like, I'm in a good place where like I'm living each day authentically and honestly, and I'm doing my best work, and I'm doing a relatively good job of taking care of myself. But like, we're just tired as a community. Like, is it like everything we see see what just happened over in the South with Hurricane Helene. And it's like, I'm thinking about that almost every single day. And I know people from that area. I can't bring myself to look to see if they're still here, but like, I'm also like seeing that everything is on fire. It's like, now is the time where it's like, we've got to be able to get ourselves in a good spot, because like, everything we're seeing is very like seems very, very hopeless. So it's like, if we are seeing people that are having a little bit more of a struggle with trying to grasp and see for the future, if we've been through some stuff and we're in a good spot, like, it's time to stop playing the radio and be like, okay, I'm going to advocate for other people because I'm in a good spot. Yeah. But I'm also going to communicate like, hey, I'm not at 1,000, but I'm about 750. Yeah. You're at 20. So we're going to do some work. Okay. And I think that like, as a community, that's something that we miss. And that's something that I really appreciated from where we come from, is that like there was that level of like support and connectivity. And that's some of the work that I do now with all the inclusivity work, is just like, we don't have to see eye to eye on everything, but we do need to respect the fact that we all deserve to have a quality life with access to healthcare and the recovery systems that we need to be able to take care of each other. Because the last thing we want to do is to have to, wish that we could have done more. And part of that wishing that we could have done more comes from recognizing that, there are a lot of watch outs. There are a lot of things that we can see. And I will say, like, I followed your journey quite a bit, and it's been so nice to see you actively just being like, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to have a constant conversation. And as someone that has come from similar situations from where we were raised to where we're at now, I do want to say, thank you for everything that you do, because I'm doing my little part to make my corner of the world a little bit better. And it's weird. But like, I appreciate you so much.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to even think that. And I mean, same right back at you, because like, it's, especially looking back at the journey, it's like, you shouldn't be here. Like, you shouldn't be here. And I say that as in, I don't mean that as in you shouldn't be here. It's a miracle. I mean, it really it's a whirlwind of miracles that you're still with us. And what a beautiful person to still be with us. Oh my God. Like, if you guys have never, I don't, do you have social media and stuff? We're going to plug it. Okay. Cause people, really
I'm on all the things.
You're on all the things. Okay. Well, we're going to give your socials out at the end, but, seriously, like, if you want to see somebody just living their truth, follow Patrick. It is beautiful. And especially I am talking directly to the kids in middle school or high school or even college who you have known you are different from the time you were born, and you're just trying to navigate it. I don't care what different means to you. It might not mean that you wanted to dance as a boy on the flag team. That might not be what that means to you, but my gosh, there's so many different other ways. And you feel like you're a round peg trying to get into a square hole or something. This is somebody that you want to follow, because I'm just so proud of you for like,
thank you.
I think, and I want to throw this out there too. If I was ever ugly to you in high school or middle school or wherever, if you have that memory, please share it with me. I would like to genuinely apologize for anything. But I have nothing but fond memories of you.
You were always positive, Ricky Dale.
Ricky Dale. Oh gosh, now the whole world knows. It's not a secret. They already knew. My country name.
I just want to like say this one thing. Like, I feel like people that are empaths, like, because we've had so many things taken away from us that we never had a say in, we see how to positively fill the absence. And sometimes that positivity is a Band-Aid. And it's things that we need to then replace. And part of that work comes into identifying those things. I've found that the most people that have intrusive thoughts and that struggle with mental health like to think in possibilities and imagination, and because they're just like, it's hoping for something better and thinking about the possibility if, and then there's that level of like chopping it off, being like, but there's no way. It's like, that's the work where you gotta like really like kind of pinpoint on, is like being able to see opportunity and to see the good and the bad is something that most people don't possess. Like, they literally do not. Like, it's like, imagine it like being like a adult imagination, and like, instead of seeing like, Bing Bong over there, that's your monster, you're just kind of like, what if we did this? It would be a fun thing. Like, there's a different voice in all of us that deal with that type of pressure. And I am not a spiritual, I'd say I'm a little bit of a woo-woo person, but I'm not like religious. It's like, sometimes those callings and that pressure may seem to be too much, but it's a journey. That's all I can say. It's like, I'm 40 years old. It's taken me a long time to get here. But everything happens in due time, as long as you are able to be honest with yourself and to raise a hand every now and then. There's no bad thing in saying like, you know what, this is a little heavy for me.
Right.
I would not be here today if it wasn't for like parents of some of the people that I was on dance team with, that like just literally saw a little bit of something and just nurtured it for a minute before I zoomed off to the next thing. Like, be
Yeah.
that, be try to be that person to just like listen sometimes. Like, it's, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling. I need more coffee. Like, even though it's like 1 p.m. over here in Seattle, I'm just like, I just usually never get a chance to talk about myself. I'm usually like doing so much for other people. So I'm
I'm
like,
so
this is a
happy to
really
give you
fun
the
opportunity.
platform. Yeah. Um, so another thing that you said in there, and I just picked up on it as this really helped me. This was,
Mhm.
and I'm going to step out on a limb. Tell me if I'm wrong. Won't be the
Yeah.
first time, but it sounded to me like this is the reason why you're still here, is because this one person. You talked about it was your best friend, and she what really like saw the best in you and pushed you and all
Yeah.
that, and listened. Having that person in your life
You make me cry.
is, oh, it's a beautiful
It's good.
cry
Go, go,
though.
go, 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 go,
Yeah,
go.
but having that person in your life, like, I don't think people understand the level that it really affects somebody. For somebody to be like, I see you,
Mhm.
your whole self, I love every
Mhm.
piece about you. You're not doing this alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here with you. Like, you don't have to do this alone. And so if we can be that person for somebody, I'm not saying be that person for everybody.
No.
No one could do that. But man, you got people in your circle that,
Yeah.
they're hurting, and all they don't need you to fix it. They don't need you to come in. They just need somebody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have anything additional on that?
Yeah. My friend was just like, well, ride or die is the best way I can say it. Like, she would come visit me at least twice a year in New York because I would be so busy. I wouldn't have time. And she's from the South. She's from Houston. So like she would come and we do things in the evenings and then hang out on the weekends, but she would just be out being feral, doing her own thing. Like, we were peas in a pod. We actually met at the Mr. Her, Miss Him pageant. It was a fundraiser for the Gay Straight Alliance at the University of Arkansas,
Uh-huh.
and she was a Razorback track and field like national champion. Like, she was an amazing cross country runner. And I met her dressed as Billy Ray Cyrus, and I was dressed as Jennifer Lopez, and I was twirling batons to Let's Get Loud, and
Yes.
became the best of friends ever since then. And like, what's that little thing? That TikTok thing, like, who's gonna match my freak?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if she were still alive today, her and I would be viral sensations because the energy was just on another level.
Yeah.
It's just good times. But when she passed, there was like, I was with her whenever I was taking care of her whenever she was on hospice, and it was pretty crazy because I just lost my dad a week before. I just
Uh-huh.
finished him, and then I flew back to Houston to help with her, and she was ready. Like, I slept with her every night. Like, I remember her telling me that she was scared. And I think that was just like seeing someone that was so vibrant in the life of everything and didn't have the same struggles, but to recognize that when she provided me safety, we were good. Like, I didn't think about all the things that were up here. I could just be myself and be present. Like, that was such a gift to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a good spot where I used to think that I didn't deserve it, but like, if she wouldn't have provided me that safe space in that very crucial time in my life, like, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you. I wouldn't be here doing all the things that I'm doing in a town that I just started over in. Like, all it takes is one person to just provide a safe space. Like, she never really told me what to do, but it wasn't until she finally gave me that ultimatum where I was hurting myself, where she was like, you're going to need to pick this or pick me. And that ultimatum was the first time anyone has ever like been that person for me, because my family's just been like, whatever, you survived, you didn't go to jail, you didn't kill anybody, so we're good. But she was just like, I need you to make this decision for you. She's
Yeah.
like, and she didn't tell me how it was going to affect her. I knew how it would affect her, and that was the choice. I was like, I need to leave this guy. And
Yeah.
then he was the catalyst that got me to everything else here. And I think about her every single day. Like, I sometimes it just takes that one person, you know.
Yeah. And a big thing that I like to talk about is kindness versus niceness.
Yeah.
Because the nice thing for her to do was to allow you to continue on, and not make you uncomfortable, not make herself uncomfortable by bringing it up and saying, "Hey, I want to challenge you right now.
Yeah.
Is this really for your best and highest good? Is this really what you want to be doing?"
Right.
But she was so kind to do that for you, because that is uncomfortable. It is hard to have those conversations. But I mean, it sounds like y'all had this conversation and it changed the trajectory of your life in a very positive way.
I mean, I left New York with whatever I could like put in my car, and I left my my partner in the bathroom while he was shooting up. Like, he told me that he was getting clean and he wasn't, and he would just disappear, because it was like right after COVID. So like, we were in our little studio apartment, but I knew he was going to be in there for a few hours. I told him I was going to go run some errands. I went out to JFK, got a rental car, drove it back. He was in the bathroom. I had already been preparing for a year. I had been setting up and telling him I'm going to get rid of some things. Yeah. Totally gaslighting your partner. This is the place where it's used for good.
If you're being abused, you do what you got to do.
Like, yep. So I had all these things set up, and so I was just literally taking things out to whatever I could fit into that car, and then I left.
Wow.
It was like, where did you go? He's like, why is all this stuff gone? And I didn't talk to him. I didn't talk to him for a month and a half. He spiraled. It was a whole thing. But I went and stayed with her and her mom in Houston, and was able to be there for her, and being able to figure out what I wanted to do next. It was terrifying, but like,
sure,
sometimes being able to be removed from a situation and having a blank slate is sometimes really, really great.
Yeah.
Sometimes to win, you have to swing big too. And and change is very uncomfortable, but like, it seems so scary here, but then like a week or two later, when you're in a better spot, it's like, I can breathe a little bit. And then 6 months down the road, it's like you're in a much better space. Like, the familiarity, the newness starts to kind of like settle a little bit, and then you start building a new network. Like, I will say I am the king of starting over and like
you are.
Where I left off. I mean, I've been doing it since I was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
By choice and not by choice.
Right. So, wow. That's such a beautiful story, Patrick. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So, I feel like people who are outside of the LGBTQ community, people who don't know about abuse and stuff like that, anyway, when they're looking at somebody like from the outside looking in, they're going to see there's Patrick, who is obviously suicidal because he was forced to be in the box or in the closet for far too long. And it's a very simplified story. But what I want to highlight is there's so much to your story. Like, we can't minimize and reduce it down to this one thing. This was like childhood trauma, childhood abuse, religious trauma, religious abuse, bullying, trying to fit in whenever you're born to stand out, for lack of a better cliche there. And then we get into drugs and substance abuse and stuff like that, alcoholism, whatever you want to call it. There's so much to your story. Like, there's a lot to it. It's very, and I find that is true with almost everybody. Like, it's not one thing. And I don't think we talk about that enough. Like, it's not one thing typically. It's a whole host of things that kind of swirl together for the perfect storm. And you had that disruptor in there of this person caring for you. How powerful is that you can have all these things going on, and one beacon of light in your life is enough to change the trajectory?
Well, I'm gonna say something that might blow your mind.
Okay.
There's a catalyst in there that I think is really important, that hindsight and recovery has kind of got me in a good space to think. Is, we say a lot like, all it takes is one person to make a difference, kind of thing. You yourself, you're a catalyst for that change too. But what it comes down to is honesty. And the biggest thing that I've learned in recovery and like doing outpatient for alcohol and weed was the things that I constantly hear other people like. I'm in these classes with like people that do not want the help. They're like they're court ordered, or their wife or their husband's making them go. This is how they're going to get their children back. Like they're there because they're being required to. And there's a common theme in there. And shame is something that we talk about a lot too. It's like it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to lie to yourself. And if you're able to be honest with yourself and to be completely honest with one other person in the world, one other person, that will make a huge difference. Being able to have that safe space to say the stupidest, craziest thing that it's not going to come back and like haunt you, but that person knows your heart, they know your feelings. It's important to do it with a licensed professional, but obviously they can report and do all those things. So like they've got their statute of limitations. But if you're lucky enough to have that one person that like literally could be like, you know what, I kind of wanted to kick that child in the face today, like. Yeah. Completely stupid, unhinged, and ridiculous. But like, I know they know that I'm not a child abuser and that I would never do it. But like, they're like, you know what? They just need to have that moment in that space. And then the next thing is like, okay, what's going on? Why do you want to kick a child in the face? Like, completely unhinged things you cannot say to someone at the grocery store. Like, hi, your child is being a little shit. I'm going to punch it in the throat. Like, that is not okay. However, you could go back to your car and you can call up your best dude and be like, Leandra, you have no idea what just happened. Like, I literally like. I pictured myself backing into this old woman that looked at me sideways and told me that my earrings were for women. Like, like just having that one safe space. But part of that is just allowing yourself to be transparent, but then being honest with yourself, but then finding that space where you can be a safe space for someone by just letting them let it all hang out. Like we all like produce everything we do just to be polite, to be cordial, to like, we all do this. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. Like, we all do like socially acceptable things, but like, we're just all crazy people. Right. Like, at the end of the day, just some of us are really better at like dealing with it. Yeah. Some of us it's temporary. Some of us it's a long-term adventure. Right. But like being able to find someone that can match your freak for a little bit, to have that is like really, really, really important. And I feel like I was the blessed one to have her in my life, but also like her living her life authentically the way that she did her living her life the way that she did was so inspiring to other people. And I'm like, we're together for a reason. Like the universe put us together on this path for a reason. So we're obviously very similar people. And she was able to be my mirror that I wasn't able to see myself in. And sometimes you need that magic mirror to be like, you are the fairest in the land. And to be able to see yourself, and not having that mirror anymore means that I have to be authentically myself, like she saw me, and learn from her life experience and take it in as my own to give her honor, but then also to be here to do the things that I need to do. Like, I know that I've saved lives. There have been people that have been in crisis. There was this one gentleman. I'm going to tell this quick story. There was this one gentleman that worked in nightlife in a couple towns over, and someone came to me and they said, "Hey, so and so is talking about hurting himself. He's really, really drunk, but like he's crying in the corner, blah 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 blah." And like I knew the guy, but I'm like not tight with him. He's straight, not super chill with the dudes thing, and but like has been nice to me. But then I went up to him and I said, "Hey, what's going on? I'm like, do you want to talk for a minute?" And he was just crying. I'm like, okay. Like, he kind of broke down. He's like, I'm done. He's like, I'm going to run my car into the sound. And I'm like, okay. That's a big thought. There's some realness about that. I was like, you're a little bit tipsy, which means your emotions are really available. And that's a good thing, but also a bad thing. You're kind of scaring me a little bit, but you're in a good spot. Like, can I take you out of this environment and then us have a conversation? Would you be okay with that? He was living with his mom at the time, and he just got out of a really crazy relationship with his baby mama, and like this whole thing. And the world was like really, really real to him that night. And I ended up going and paying for a hotel room, and some of the people that were close with us, we all came in, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I hung out with him. He defecated himself. He peed himself. He was crying. I got him out of his clothes, and he was really uncomfortable with that. And I was like, I'm like, dude, like, stop the weird stuff. I'm like, you're not in a good spot. We're just trying to get you to where you can be comfortable. I'm like, we're going to stay with you. We're going to make sure you're okay. And I have a very interesting relationship with him now, because we got him through the night. I was able to get him some resources to be like, hey, let's work on this. He no longer works in nightlife. I think he's working on his sobriety, but he's doing well. But like, I remember like I took his urine soaked pants home and like to wash them. And I was like, this is so crazy. But like, it's just all the embarrassment, the shame, and all that. Like, when you've been repressing things for so long and you haven't been dealing with it, it just sometimes can manifest in the most ridiculous spaces. And if we're lucky, there can be the right energies to be there to intercept. And I was so glad to be there. But this is something I have like on a like monthly experience, not to that extreme, but like the conversations I have working in nightlife, like, which is like, getting sober for me was like a no-brainer. It's like, I need to be the best person for myself. And the universe is like, guess what? You have a resume of experience to where you can now identify with a lot of stuff that people can't see for themselves. Yeah. And you have the skill set to back it up. And you're probably going to be in the area. So, hey, over here now. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, it is. And but I truly do believe that's your sole purpose. Like, it's helping people become okay with themselves, finding themselves, and just being your true selves. Like, what is wrong with it? You said something before we got on the call. What was it? You're not worried about people, what they're doing. You're not worried about people, what they're doing.
Unless you're, I know this is so terrible. Unless you're fucking financing or feeding me, like, I don't really like. I could give two craps about it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I like RuPaul says all the time, like, if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. But like, it's this whole type of thing. But like, if I could give some advice to people, it would be that number one, no one's thinking about you the way that you're thinking about you. Number two, confidence is key, and sometimes confidence is pure delusion, and delusion comes from being like, you know what, I'm gonna have a good day. Yeah, nothing's gonna bother me. I'm gonna put on something cute. I'm going to slap on, some makeup. I may not brush my hair. I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to be in my own little bubble. And then whatever comes to me, I'm going to meet it. I'm going to meet it right where it is and being present. Like, don't try to force anything. Just be present. Like, being present has been the biggest catalyst to my like health, mental health, physical health. The whole thing is just being present and not being distracted, just living in the moments that I have now, because I know from close calls and a lot of loss that tomorrow is not guaranteed. But what I can guarantee is that I am going to be present for the next certain amount of time and allow space for people if I have the capacity, but then also being able to communicate and let people know, like, hey, I can't be that person for you right now. But like, do you need me to listen? Do you need advice? Like, let's quantify things. Said a lot of things in one sentence there. Like, my double shot of espresso and my queen cup has now kicked in. Interview done. I'm kidding.
No, that's great advice. I love that. I love your story. I love you. I think you're amazing. So, do you have any parting words for anybody? I'm feeling led to say anybody experiencing similar situations that you went through.
Yeah.
Or supporting somebody through something that you went through. How about that? We'll hit both.
Right. Get involved is something I can say, like volunteering. Like, if you're going through some things and you're getting stuck in these spaces where it's like you have too much time to think about yourself. If you have the emotional and like the ability to go and get involved in something as simple as like helping at a food pantry or helping at a festival, like helping at an old folks home, anything that's going to take you a couple of steps away from comfortable, where there's no expectations other than you physically being there and then filling a one need. Like, that automatically has always given me a dopamine thing. It was just kind of like, it allowed me enough time to have something very easy to accomplish that was positively impacting somebody else, and also getting to be able to hear another person's point of view about things with me. Probably never going to see this person again. Yeah. Like, it's allowed me so many more opportunities to just like provide myself a space. Number two would be something that will be on my tombstone, hopefully not anytime soon, is I love you enough to tell you you're terrible. And right next to that is number two, is that if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. Those two are two mantras that I think about all the time. I will always love someone to give them the cold, honest truth and transparency, because one, I never got it as a child. Yeah. I didn't get it as a young adult. and I didn't do it for myself whenever I was in my 30s. I sure the hell am not going to be doing it to anybody else or myself from here on out. The second caveat of that was, if you love something, set it them free. If it comes back, it's yours. My sister used to always tell me that when I was little, because I would capture snakes, frogs, bunnies, chickens, all types of things, and just be like, I love them. I want to give everything, because I didn't have a lot of friends. So I just stole friends from nature and then made them mine. So many dead animals, not because I killed them, but it's because I have ADHD and I forgot that they were there. But anyways, but it's like, it's the same thing with like being okay to be able to set boundaries for yourself too. Like, you are no good to other people if you're not in a good spot yourself. But part of that is being able to set healthy boundaries and say, like, I'm here for you, I support you, but like I'm tapped out. Too many spoons are given out at this time. Like, is there something that I can do in between while I can get myself to a good spot, and then we can reconnect? Like, that's the best that I can do, is being able to set those things there. But then also, like, the third part is, like, we don't ever want to get to a place where we have to give someone an ultimatum. But in sometimes, and it's not all times, if that relationship is so tight, and them being able to see your true emotions and how much what they're doing to you is hurting you, and this is specifically in the sense of like drug abuse or alcohol abuse, something that nature, whether it's like we're at the last straw, we've done everything we can. Like, I hate to say this, but like sometimes being able to say I love you, but like I love myself more is a hard thing. So it's kind of steers a little bit away about like ideation and whatnot, but like, if someone gets to that point where they're then abusing all these other things, and then the addiction part of it's there, but we know that the mental health stuff is a part of it, and it's a part of just trying to get through it. Like, give yourself some patience. Look out to other resources. So sometimes you may not be the most qualified person to be giving the advice, but you can be a shepherd to just keep on being like, hey, be that squeaky wheel that gets the grease. Be like, hey, have you checked in with this community resources people? Have you done this yet? Have you done this? Like, there are ways that you can kind of like help people into that spot until you can get them to a good space. Because sometimes there's so many moving pieces in the insanity that like you have to dissect into pieces to recognize that it's there. And that's a whole lot of something. There's some nuggets in there, but I'm like,
no, that's good, because so many people, they take, in fact, I got a message just last night from somebody and I haven't responded to it yet, but their daughter had a breakup with a boyfriend, and 2 weeks later the boyfriend has died by suicide, and the girl is she's very much taking that on herself, like it's her fault. And I'm a suicide intervention expert. This is what I do, right? Like, I'm vocal about it and I want people to intervene, and you can only do so much. If you are in a relationship and it is not serving your highest and best good, you are not supposed to stay in it to keep somebody alive.
Right.
That's, like you said, the spoons. I wish everybody in the world understood spoon theory, because I do the same thing. Like, there are times where I can't anymore. I'm somehow in negative spoon territory. I've borrowed from tomorrow's spoons. I'm out. There's nothing more to give. And then somebody comes to me and I'm like, in the kindest way possible, express, I can't be this person for you right now.
Right.
And that's okay. And giving permission for people to be like, it's okay. You're not responsible for the decisions of this other person.
Right.
Do what you can, do the best you can while you can do it. And don't just leave them out hanging either. It's like, if you opened up to me and I was out of spoons today, I'm going to hear you out first. And then I'm going to say, okay, Patrick, I love you so much. You matter so much to me. I am out of spoons today. I cannot be this person for you right now. How can I best serve you? And I'll probably give you some options at this point too. Like, I will say, please feel free to write this out and send this to me in an email. Tomorrow, I'm going to read that, and then I will reach out and we will talk about this. That way you get it off of your chest. That's a way of releasing. You trust me. I'm going to read it and we're going to come back to it. or I'm going to say, how can I connect you to somebody else? Is there somebody else that we can get you to right now? You know, and that's the entrusting somebody else part of the ease framework. But you're 100% correct on that, is what I'm saying. It's an important message to get out there, because there's so much guilt that comes with this of I want to fix everybody. And I am speaking from somebody with a savior complex that I fight every day. Like, I want to save everybody. If left to my own devices, I would have a whole house full of abandoned pets and kids. It just, I wouldn't be able to do anything. Just feeding people all day long. But you know, it's important to recognize those limits. So I really appreciate you saying that. All right. So hit us with the detail. How can people see your work?
Yeah. So I keep my my social media like kind of private for Patrick, but entertainment wise, you can find me on TikTok at Patrick Starchild, with 2 R's, and then all together, or Satanya D Nix on Instagram, Facebook, and Venmo.
Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to text that to me. I'm going to put it in the show notes just to make sure that everybody can find that. But I honest to God, and this is the weirdest thing, but when I think of you in my mind, it's Patrick Starchild. Like, for real. It's not Patrick Wright anymore. It's Patrick Starchild. Isn't that weird? That's such a weird thing. But I don't know. It just it fits. Fits so well.
I mean, like, I've been in this like land of delusion of being like, you know, trying to figure out who I wanted to be whenever I grow up has been something that we always wrestle with. And then because I have such an interesting relationship with death, because I've been so close to it, I'm kind of at this place of being like, who do I want to be when I die? Like, it sounds crazy, but like, I want to be that eccentric, like person, like I don't know much about that person, but they are like, I will never forget that person because they lived life being this eccentric, like, old person. And Miss Cancian, which is David Shuck, our like band director, his mom, before she passed, in my graduation card, made a reference to the stars. And it's something that has always kind of like held to me because, you know, she's from Michigan and all those things, but like she saw me outside of all the other business and all the high school drama and whatnot. Because of like how I impacted her son, which was one of our music educators, and how much joy I gave him because he had a student that like, you know, could do these things. And like, when we had such a great relationship and then all those things. So like, there's always been in the back of my mind, but it's also allowed me a way to kind of be like, I'm not above anybody or anything else. I'm just like, I'm going to shine to my most authentic self. And sometimes bright lights cast big shadows. But if you know where you're going and you know where you've been, it makes it really easy to be present.
Love it.
And the brighter and more authentic you shine, the easier it is to see the way. Or blind the haters. That's my favorite.
There you go. Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah.
That's in the eyeball. Done.
Absolutely. There is some poetic justice of just watching people that have been your haters be uncomfortable with your presence. It's like, oh, that must suck for you.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm kind, I'm not nice. Let's not get the two twisted.
Exactly.
Like, I have a tattooed on my arm with a little dagger that says "Kill them with kindness."
Yes.
Like, I take joy in like in fear and bigotry sometimes, like to the point where it's really sick and twisted.
Yeah.
I kill people with kindness all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that though. It's
You're uncomfortable.
Tell me about that. How does that make you feel?
Yeah. You obviously need attention.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you.
So funny.
Nobody that's in a good spot is going out of the way to make someone else feel bad unless they need a little bit of something else. They usually can't quantify it for themselves, so it comes out of hate.
Preach on that. Yeah.
Number of times I'll just go up to strangers. I'm like, you look like you need a hug. Honestly, like you look like you need a hug. And crazy, like big dudes all run into Walmart, like they're like women away. I'm like, do you need a hug?
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? Actually, we do need a hug. Now that I live in a small enough town, they're like, Patrick, I really need a hug. Apparently my hugs are magic. So hugs are magic.
I bet they are. If I get to see you in person again, because, you know, you're far away, but we're going to have a good long embrace for sure.
I'll wear deodorant just for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. I don't even know how long we've been talking, but it's been a while. So, yeah, Thank you so much for the time and everything. And for all those wondering, yes, I did fail to send the correct invite to him. So we had a hard time at first, but there is some other Patrick Wright out there that did have an invitation and chose not to show up. So whoever you are, I see you. Thank you for, I don't know, you really missed out on an opportunity because that would have thrown me off to have some random other person.
That's for like in like the University of Illinois. The last time, like Springfield, Illinois, is like at least that's what it was in 2002 whenever I was in college, and I had that whenever I created.
So funny. There was one letter difference in the email address, and I didn't catch it, and I really should have because
literacy matters.
We see this beautiful man in front of us right now, and this other Patrick Wright is also a beautiful man, but also a Black basketball player. So,
in my dreams,
you would have thought that I would have noticed something was wrong, but I didn't.
Hilarious.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Can't wait for everybody to hear it. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough or worthy just as you are, just as Patrick himself felt, please take a moment and like and share this podcast. Make sure you are also subscribed so you never miss an episode. All of these things get this podcast in front of new listeners, and you never know when someone might need just this message. Did you know members of the LGBTQ community are more than twice as likely to die by suicide as the general population? Moral disagreement or not, I'm not here to have this argument with you. These people are worthy of love and acceptance just like anyone else. If you would like to get involved with this community specifically, please check out the Trevor Project at thetrevorproject.org or the Laramie Project at matthewshepard.org. And I will have those linked in the show notes for you as well. In next week's episode, I get to interview the Ashley Kessner. Ashley is a marketing genius and community activist. However, what brings her to the podcast is her own struggle with mental health and addiction. Our talk is raw, unfiltered, and vulnerable. So you don't want to miss next week's episode where we continue to intervene with ease.